Experience the epic series that the world is watching and raving about. Catch up or relive the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, now on HBO On Demand, and watch back-to-back episodes anytime on your schedule. This year, join the Legion of Followers and enjoy past seasons of Game of Thrones, plus the premiere of Season 4 on April 6th on HBO. Don't miss out. Sign up for HBO and get free access to HBO On Demand.
A numbers expert defends web shops against what he called the myth of money laundering. The Prime Minister downplays his relationship with value-added tax consultant Ishmael Lightbourne. A pedestrian struck and killed on New Providence early this morning, and when Bahamians can expect to see national health insurance introduced. We have those stories and more coming up tonight. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and your MB12 starts right now. Joining us. A consultant and spokesperson on the Vote Yes Numbers campaign is defending web shops in light of concerns that those enterprises may be used in money laundering exercises. Paul Major, who has consulted for at least 2 major web shops in the Bahamas, says it is a myth that web shops are being used for money laundering.
So all this business about washing dope money or drug money, nonsense. It could happen in the bank, it could happen in here. It is up to the government and the regulators to put in the necessary controls, and I'm telling you the technology is there to build in any level of controls you want to make sure that does not happen. So all this myth about money laundering, everybody before they open an account got to bring in a passport so we know it's a Bahamian. First of all, no foreigners. Bahamian, passport, on the record. You get an account number. So we know who you are and what you play. If the government chose to say, well, anybody bringing in more than $1,000, if you want to keep it that low, we want to check them out. The banks say up to $10,000. But if you believe this is such a nefarious operation, you say, well, anything over $1,000, I want to know.
This comes in the wake of concerns raised by Central Bank Governor Wendy Craig, who told the Nassau Guardian back in January that if the web shop sector is going to be allowed to exist, it should be regulated, as international anti-money laundering regulations have made it impossible for numbers bosses to bank their millions. Today, Major said the web shop industry has built-in controls, which should make regulating the industry easy. For example, Major says the technology in web shops can provide government with up-to-the-minute reports on who is playing from which machine and how much has been spent by that individual in the last hour, week, month, or year.
That the level of technology in the web shops today exceeds that of the banking industry. Don't challenge me on it because I could prove it. I brought the first ATMs to the Bahamas. I brought the first credit cards to the Bahamas. I know their technology. I do electronic banking every day. I can tell you midnight sometime I got to go on my account to see if a credit gone through or if a debit was passed. Not so in the gaming industry. The gambling boys don't pay a dime for money. People just bring it to them and don't ask for what's the rate. So you see, it's a bad situation all around if the regulators don't get a grip on this. So you hear the pundits talking about all the laundering and the this and the that. Well, you could launder anywhere, anyhow, anytime. The regulator's duty is to try and plug those dikes and holes so that people don't do it.
According to the U.S. Narcotics Report, illegal gambling, drug and gun trafficking, and human smuggling account for major sources of laundered proceeds. Major, who spoke at the National Conclave of Chambers of Commerce in the Bahamas, says the fact that the industry remains unregulated locally means that numbers bosses are looking for other places to invest their money.
These guys are now all over the globe. As far as Ghana, you'd have seen in the papers this morning. We just got 2 licenses down in the Eastern Caribbean. We're in Haiti. The guys are now finding a way to export capital from the Bahamas to create employment in other countries. What sense does it make? We got our heads in the sand.
Pastor Mario Moxie, who encouraged Bahamians to vote no in the January 2013 gaming referendum, also weighed in, noting that for the first time in the history of democracy in the Bahamas, the government is considering going against the word of the people. Most of the people who voted in last year's referendum voted no to regularizing and taxing web shops. The government has pledged to abide by the outcome of that vote. However, Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe, who has responsibility for gaming, says he intends on presenting Cabinet with a proposal for regulating web shops with a view to regulating that sector by July 1st. Well, Prime Minister Perry Christie said today he will never apologize for helping Bahamians when he was asked about his bank intervention bid to save the home of government tax advisor and dodger Ishmael Lightbourne. Dana Smith reports.
The Prime Minister downplayed his relationship with Lightbourne, explaining he has no social relationship with him. Christie also said his efforts to help had nothing to do with politics and were not done in a coercive manner. The Prime Minister said he will not compromise in his efforts to help those in need.
It is not politics. It is not because of friends. Mr. Lightbourne and I have no social relationship. None. I have not spoken to Mr. Lightbourne since I made the intervention. We have no social. He is somebody who I have learned to respect as a Christian person in this country, a very educated person in this country, who's made a big mistake in his life. All of us do. I made one when I was put out of school, and there was a man who called Donald Davis who reached down and said, this boy is smarter than that. And forever, for the rest of my life, I will never compromise on my efforts to help people. Nobody will ever get me to apologize for it, and nobody will ever get me to deviate from being able to help people. I never do it in a coercive manner. I do it on the basis of the outcome being in the best interest of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and any institution I'm dealing with.
The status of Lightbourne's house remains unclear. Yesterday, our news team witnessed activities that suggested a repossession was in progress. First Caribbean International Bank had secured a court order to repossess Lightbourne's Cable Beach home. Christie had previously said in Parliament he called the managing director of the bank and asked what he could do as Prime Minister to stop Lightbourne from being put out of his house. Although refusing to speak on yesterday's apparent bank repossession when asked, Christie said throughout his political career he has made interventions with bank leaders, and it has never been done in an adversarial manner. He said he can't get banks to change mortgage rates, and banks understand and respect his interventions. Christie said the government plans to bring legislation to help struggling homeowners, and since his attempt to help Lightbourne, he's tried to help more and will continue to do so unapologetically.
Since Ishmael Lightbourne, I have intervened on behalf of young Bahamians and old Bahamians in different islands. They amount to the hundreds. And please tell them, yes, anyone who they want to refer to me, I am willing, if I can't do it all myself, to have people meet them, because it is an incredibly important challenge in this country, and we are going to bring legislation for this. And there is no one, right, who will ever get me to stop doing what I have done for 40 years.
Christie noted there are many Bahamians who are struggling to keep their homes, and he's moving forward to better the country.
I am going full speed ahead to bring results in this country. Whether they like it or they don't like it, they are going to witness it. Bahamians are going to be increasingly employed. New developments are going to take place, and we are going to be transforming this country from island to island. Of that, you could go to sleep on it. I'm going to work hard to do it every day, all day, until it is done.
Members of the opposition have criticized Christie's Lightbourne intervention as inappropriate and an abuse of power, while many government officials have come to Christie's defense for being a good Samaritan and lending assistance when it's required. Reporting for NB12, I'm Dana Smith.
A man is dead after an early morning traffic fatality along Tonique-Williams-Darling Highway. Officer in charge of the Traffic Division, Assistant Superintendent Craig Stubbs, says the accident occurred shortly after 6:30 this morning in the eastbound lanes of the highway.
On arrival, the officers met a adult male, lying in the eastbound lane of Tonique-Darling Highway, and a vehicle also that was traveling eastbound. The EMS arrived on scene. They attended to the adult male and they pronounced him dead on scene. At a particular time, we understand that pedestrian was crossing the thoroughfare and the Toyota vehicle was traveling eastbound on Tonique-Darling Highway.
The driver of the vehicle was left shaken up and had to be taken for medical attention. He was also being interviewed to determine the circumstances surrounding the incident. The victim's identity has not yet been released. Police, meanwhile, encourage members of the public to use crosswalks whenever possible.
The thoroughfare is equipped with a pedestrian crossing. We urge the pedestrians going to move about on the Tonic Darling Highway. There are signs posted. There are pedestrian crossing markings on the thoroughfare for your usage. We ask them to use those pedestrian crossings to prevent such accidents like this.
And 2 Jamaicans accused of cultivating an estimated $16.8 million worth of marijuana plants in Grand Bahama today arraigned on those charges. 28-year-old DeMar Jarrett, seen in the plaid shirt with cornrows, and 55-year-old Eaton Spencer, also in plaid, were charged with the possession, cultivation, and conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. It is alleged that the pair, both from Westmoreland, carried out the offenses on March 24th. They pleaded not guilty to the charges. Their attorney, Nathan Smith, told the court that the pair suffered abuse while in police custody. They will return to court for fixture on April 8th.